Hello and welcome to today's European SharePoint Office 365 and Azure Community webinar. My name is Shane and I'm delighted to be joined by Ulrikke Akerbæk, Skill Norway, who will be talking to you today about Slick Attendee Check In with QR codes, low code style. Remember to join the conversation about today's webinar on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EuropeanSP and our hashtag is ESPC21. Don't forget to check out the Resource Center. This is updated daily with the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. Simply visit SharePointEurope.com and click the content link at the top. Check out all upcoming webinars for SharePoint Week. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we will have Gökhan Azifsi for Microsoft Teams translation and language features. See full details at SharePointEurope.com. Oh, apologies, the wrong slide has just come up. So just let me move through them again here. Oh, it seems to not be wanting to play ball with me today. Okay, and also a big thank you to our SharePoint sponsor, Nintex. Okay, having a few issues here. We'll just go back to this slide for the time being. After the webinar, we will have a questions and answers session. Type any questions you have in the questions window. Questions will be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and added to the Resource Center, where you will be notified by email when it is available. And now I'm going to pass you over to our webinar presenter, Ulrikke Akerbæk. Hello, Ulrikke.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, there I am. Can everyone see me?
Yeah, and if you can just share your screen, Ulrikke, we'll let you take it.
I will. So I'm new to this GoToWebinar as a presenter, so please bear with me if anything seems to fail, it's probably my fault. So can you please confirm you see my screen?
Yeah, take it away, Ulrikke.
Great, thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to present the first webinar of this great week, and thank you to Nintex for sponsoring. So what I will take you through today is fairly technical, can be, but I will show you how this works on the surface first. So if you're not too technical, bear with me, we will go through it on the surface first. So first of all, let me just take a minute to tell you about myself. My name is Ulrikke Akerbæk, and I'm now a solution architect with the business applications at Skill in Norway. So we're a consultant company in Oslo and Sarpsborg in Norway. I actually started my career as a SharePoint consultant. I branded SharePoint sites, and some of you in the audience probably know that in the early days of SharePoint, we actually did brand the whole thing, from the My Page to the internet sites, the colors, the fonts, everything. And so 5 years in, it changed to the cloud. It was Office 365, and it was no hands. No branding, hands off. And I have a degree in multimedia and branding and user experience. So for me then it was easy to see that I needed to transition into something else. And so that's exactly when Microsoft bought ADX Studio, turned it into Power Apps portals as we know today. And that is where my expertise lies. So I'm a Power Apps portals girl through and through. I work with user experience and communication and branding still. So if you're into that, then please follow me on these links that you see here, social media, whatever. You can reach me on my email or on Twitter or LinkedIn. Reach out if there's anything you want to discuss or need help with. And so this is my professional image, and this year we've been a lot at home. Spent a lot of focus on being home. This is my family. I'm a mother of 2, happily married. I like gardening. So this is the year's produce. I like running. And then I love community, and especially a hackathon that we arrange every year. So every February, we gather teams from different consulting companies in Norway, and we have a 3-day hackathon, a real competition. And this is actually related to what I'm going to talk to you about today. I'm a leader for the committee that arranged this event. And this year, I wanted to automate our registration process. So we're 5 people in the committee. There's 50 attendees, and so we manage this manually, the registrations for this event every year. So they would register through a Microsoft form. We would see that new registration came in, and we would actually send them an email manually to confirm that they've been registered for the event. So this year, what I wanted to do was to create a more automatic experience for us and for the participants. I wanted to automate the register, get the confirmation email, and then being able to check that people came to the event at the door, being able to check them in. And this experience is something that probably most of you have already had. So in Norway, when we go to the cinema, we would order the ticket up front. Because of COVID, everything needs to be ordered up front, right? So we need to book our seat up front at the cinema. We would get a confirmation email with a QR code. And when we go to the cinema at the door, the doorman would beep us in, would scan the code, see that we have a legitimate ticket, and then let us into the cinema. So that's the kind of experience that I wanted to create for our participants. So this is the sketch that I created just to display, just to show what I wanted to create. So the green part at the start is the register for event. It's a Microsoft form, which is a license, a free license for everyone with Office 365 or E1, E3, E5 license. So it's free for almost anyone to use. We created a form, your name, email, what team are you on? And then we wanted to automate that response into a SharePoint list. So we have a SharePoint license. We wanted to use SharePoint lists. This could be an Excel file. This could be Dataverse. This could be anything. You just need something to hold your attendees. Once a row in the SharePoint list was created, we wanted to automate that send email process. And with that email, we wanted to send a QR code. So I needed a Power Automate Cloud Flow. That's the green, no, that's the blue part out on the right side, to create that QR code for me, related to that item in the SharePoint list, and then send that QR code to our participants or attendees. And then on the left side, when that participant got that email, would see that, okay, it's confirmed, I'm registered, and then at the day of the event, they have their mobile phone with them, open the email, and the doorman would scan that QR code at the door. This is a solution we actually built for a customer, I think probably 3-4 years ago, and it took some time and it took some effort to create this with the custom framework. So what I wanted to see is, how fast can I build this on evenings in the late summer with the Power Platform? How powerful is that? And I did it. I managed to do it. And then just by advertising for this session right here, that customer wanted me to demonstrate this for them. So chances are I can get one customer to buy the same solution twice, and now for a second time in the Power Platform. All right, so I'm gonna show you what the components are, and then I'm gonna dive into each component. So I'll try to demonstrate how this works. So let me just go into my, just find myself. Okay, so first of all, let's look at the form. So this is my Office 365 environment. I've used the waffle menu, opened up Forms, Microsoft Forms, and I've created a new form. As we can see, I already have 10 responses, and this is for the Arctic Cloud Developer Challenge 2022 team registration form. So this is a form that I created. I simply put in all the fields that I wanted: full name, an email, a company, a team name, and are you the team leader? And I publish it so that external people can see it. So anyone can respond. I customize the thank you page. And because I don't know who responds, I needed that email input field to be required. So I need the email of the respondents. And so we are on the home page of ASPCA, and we go to the register page, and I just embedded this form, as you can see, on the page. Now, this will allow anyone to register anonymously. So I can go in and I can put in my name here and my work email. And I can say I'm no, and then submit. Thank you for signing up to AC/DC Cloud Developer Challenge. Now what actually happens is I have a Power Automate flow. This is not the one, this is the one. That does the registration for me. So let's just look at a flow that ran a minute ago. This grabs the Microsoft forum response. And for that response, it creates a SharePoint list item. It creates a QR code containing that ID. So the internal ID, that's the QR code value. It uploads that QR code as an attachment to that list item, and then it sends an email to my email account with a confirmation that thank you for registering, and has that image as the image attached to that email. So I can have a look and see if I got any email. So this would be what that email looks like. I have my QR code here. Thank you for registering. Everything's great. And I'm checked in. What would happen next is that someone at the door would, and I have to play this as a video because I cannot connect my phone right now, but so this is what the Power App would look like at the door. So the doorman would open up the app, would hit scan, would scan the QR code. Probably works better on a phone screen than on my laptop screen. It was a little too shiny, so it took a while for the QR code to be recognized. And then at the end, it would say success, Dylan checked in, and you would be able to scan again. Now let's look at the SharePoint list where I store all my attendees. So this is where I stored the registrations. So when the flow put registration in here, it takes the name and the email and the team from the registration form and puts it in here, and then it uploads that attachment. Now some of them are not checked in yet, but those who are checked in would have a timestamp and then checked in checkbox. And as an administrator, I can actually open up this list item right here and look at the QR code. All right, so we have the form. We have the list with all the participants done. We have a flow that automatically put all the registrations into the SharePoint list. And then we have the email. And so the days go by and the event is occurring, and you want to go to the event and have your code scanned. So what you then would need would be the Canvas app. I created a new Canvas app, just a regular one out of the box with the browse screen and the edit screen and the detail screen, the most common used one for mobile. And then I added to the start screen a barcode scanner. And what the barcode scanner does is it launches the camera on the phone. It doesn't work in a web browser, but it works on any Android device. It scans the QR code and then it renders the value. So the barcode scanner value, that would be the number, the ID of the SharePoint list. I trigger another flow sending that value in. So what this actually does is when it scans the QR code has a number, and then a flow runs to check in the SharePoint list item that has that number. So if we go into the flow here, no, that's not the one. This is the one. So we have another flow. This is a flow called flow button from Power Apps flow button, which we can just add using this Power Automate action right here. It updates the SharePoint list item that has the ID. And you can ask Power Apps to send or ask for ID, so you can push parameters from Power Apps Canvas apps into Flow. And then it processes it, it checks it in, it sets the check-in timestamp to now, and then it responds. Check-in response is success, name of the participant is checked in, and then it's succeeded. And so this response, this is what we get right here. Success, villain is checked in. So this is the response from the flow. All right, and so then when a participant is checked in, you can see that you have the timestamp and you have the checked in checkbox right here. Okay, so that's the overview. I'll just have to check with my PowerPoint to make sure that I got everything. So we have the form with the name and the email. We have the registration, comes in through a Power Automate that update or create that item, create that image, the QR code, and send that email. This is the SharePoint list with the new item, and this is the attachment. This is the QR code image. This is the email that has that same image. And when you're at the door, you just open up your email, show the QR code at the door, and the doorman will scan the code and automatically check you in. Yeah. Now, some considerations before we dive into each of the components. Security-wise, the QR code, it could usually it's an URL, so you would have a URL as the value of a QR code. But instead of using a URL, I wanted to use an internal ID to make sure that even though I have a QR scanner on my phone, I cannot simply just scan the QR code and get insight into what this item, this SharePoint item, has a value. So the QR code value would be useless to anyone else rather than the one that has the appropriate Canvas app. So that's one thing. You would need access to the SharePoint list as a connector. You would have a connector to the Power Automate flow, and you would have a run user for the Canvas app. So you would need, probably what I've done is I've used a security user that has access to all of these resources. And then the form needs to have anonymous access, because you cannot, you don't know who, there's no logged in user to the form, and so you would need it to be anonymous. Now this could present some challenges. So you can potentially get some improper responses on the form. So probably a good idea to have some validation on that first Power Automate flow to validate the email that comes in, to know that it's a proper email address, and then to have some manual look through to see that there's not a lot of invaluable data coming in. Licenses as well. So you would need an Office 365 license. Microsoft Forms comes free with that E1, E3, or E5 license. You would need Power Automate license. You can have one per user or per app. The same goes for the Power Apps license, per user or per app. And then SharePoint. So Office 365 license if you want to use SharePoint lists as your data storage. Now, if you do have Dynamics 365, you could use that instead. So you could use all the Dynamics 365 business applications, or you could use the Power Apps portals and the Dataverse as a storage. Let me now go into, so I see we have some time left. So I will let you look into the first Power Automate. Let's have a look at how that's built. So I'll go into the flow in more detail. We'll look into the Canvas app in more detail, and then we will look at some extensibility, what we can do to extend this solution. So this is actually something that I built on the evenings the last 3-4 weeks maybe. It hasn't taken me a lot of time to get this up and running. So what I've been spending more time on is kind of the branding, and I'll show you some tricks and tips on how to do that. But this hasn't taken me very long. And of course, this is a proof of concept. So if you would use this approach in a production environment, I would take into consideration the security measures and the license measures that I just talked about. So if you want to implement this in a production environment, please reach out and I'll send you my list of the things that I would do prior to putting this in a production environment. All right, so this is the flow, Power Automate flow for attendee QR code creation. Let's go into edit and we'll see all the components. So I showed you this initially. This has the trigger when a response is submitted on a Microsoft form. You would need the form ID. So this would be the form ID. I think you can get it here, right? So this is the URL, the form ID for this form. And when a response, so this would create a list of responses, and then for each response, get response details. So you want to be able to see the different input fields that the user has put in. And in order to do that, you need to get a response detail for that form ID and for that list of responses. When you do that, you will see when you put your cursor into the name field here, you will see from the get responses details step, all the different variables that you can get from the form. So for instance, you see the email here, you see the full name here, timestamp for the session, and responses to the questions. They are all accessible to you now to put wherever you want. So in this instance, I create a SharePoint list item. You could here potentially create a contact in your Dataverse database or your Dynamics environment. You could create a row in an Excel spreadsheet. You could create this as any type you want. It's up to you and how your solution is built up. But I, for this demo, want to create an item in a specified SharePoint list. Another thing to consider is, so this would be the registration for one particular event. So what would we do if we wanted to recreate this next year? Or maybe we have a series of events we want to use this kind of solution for. Then what I would do is I would have a parameter on the form hidden for the registrants, so I could get at what event this is for, and then dynamically select the list based on that event ID, for instance. That's one way to do it. So there are multiple ways you can extend this. Next year, because we're lazy, I would just probably just change this list right here to ACDC 2023. So depending on what you need, you would do different approaches for extending this. But for now, for this simple demo, we create a new item in the SharePoint list, the list name participants, checked in? No, not checked in yet. Has QR code. This should probably say yes. I'm going to change the slide. Name, that would be the full name from the questionnaire or the registration form. Email should be the email address from the registration form. Team name, etc., etc. Then we need to create a QR code. Now, why don't we create a QR code up here? Well, because we need this list item to be created first so we can get at the ID. So every list item in a SharePoint list would have their own unique ID, and that's the value that that QR code would have. Now, you could scan that QR code with any phone, with any camera on any phone, and it would just give you that number. So if I were to send you this now or show you this live, or you see that on the screen, put up your camera, try to scan it and see what you get. You would get a number, that's all. And so that would be useless to anyone else other than the one scanning it with our Canvas app. So that's part of the security around this solution. I used this connector right here. I just can't get the name of it up here. So I'll cheat. I have a cheat sheet where I put this up. So Encodian has a connector. I can, let's see if we can get this now. So I just what this do? Yeah. So if you want to use this operation, you can simply search for create QR and you will get that Encodian create QR code step. This require a trial license, so this would probably also need to be considered as I'm not really sure what it costs, but it's a trial that I used, and there's probably a lot of other providers like this that you can go and create a QR code with. So this is just for this example. So use the Encodian and create a trial just to get this up and running. And then when you decide to go forward with it into a production environment, you would look into how you could create that QR code, buy that license or use another provider for that. Right. So we create that QR code. We embed the ID for the SharePoint list as the value, and then we upload that image as an attachment to that SharePoint list item. And we send an email to the registered email address to then put in the dynamically the name of the respondent, and then we attach the same QR code as a file. Right. And then we have the Canvas app. So I just adore this barcode scanner. It's really just so much fun to fiddle around with, and you can scan so many things. You can scan real barcodes on products in your home. You can have it filter lists. You can have it scan things into a collection if you're familiar with a collection in Power Apps Canvas apps. So you can do a lot of stuff with it. So it's not just this scenario that it works with. I have a blog post about this whole solution where I included some references to some other blog posts that helped me along the way and in understanding this barcode scanner component. So you would go into the, you would have a screen, and you would just go into the Insert tab here, and you would choose where is it? I suddenly can't find it. So there would be the barcode scanner. Oh my God. All right, so you would add the barcode scanner, and on the on-scan property, you would set this expression right here. So you would set a variable to the value of the barcode scanner and the response that you get from a flow. So this is kind of complex. So what this actually does is when the barcode scanner triggers and you scan the code and you get that ID would be sent to a Power Automate flow. The return value of that flow would be the check-in response, and that is what we would put into a variable. So this is probably a good time to go look deeper into that flow. This is the flow that we trigger with that barcode scanner. We ask, or we send with that, we send that ID. So this is the ID that we send to the Power Automate flow. That goes in and updates that same list based on that ID. So what this does is it goes into the SharePoint list and it asks, give me that line, that row that has this ID, and then update it to be checked in and set that check-in time to now. So this is an expression in the flow that updates that into this exact time. Then it responds success. The name of that from that list item is checked in. This is probably where I would have a check. So implement a check or condition that says if this update was successful, respond with success. If not, respond with some kind of error message. Just to have that in a production environment, that is what I would probably do. So a little complex, a little deep, I do get that. So this is probably the most complex part of the whole solution. So when this variable has been, this code scanner has run, the Power Automate has run, this variable will have that success villain checked in, as you saw from the video. So what I do is I have this invisible block. That's it. That's barcode result is an invisible block right here. And this text value is that variable. And this means that when the QR code scanner has run and the result is in, you see that response here, success villain checked in. This is the response from the flow. Right. Now I just want to show you something really clever. If you ever work with the Canvas app, you know that it's kind of fiddly to get the design and the branding that you like. and you have a lot. So when I select an item right here, you see on the properties, on the advanced properties, there's a lot of things that you can do. You can set the fill color, the border color, the font size. There's so many things that you can set. So in the properties pane, you see how I can change the background color, the font color, using the interface. And then if you click the advanced here, you can see the raw data value behind it. So what I did, instead of having to put this on every element, so instead of having to style every element, I created a branding page with some buttons and elements that I liked. And then I referenced these styles throughout my app. So this branding page, you will never see it. When you use the app, there's no way to get to this branding page. So it's hidden from the end user, but it has 3 components. It has a button and a text area and a check-in button. Now this button I styled just using the interface. And then if we go into the start here, and I choose this text area right here, you can see that I reference. I don't set the border color up just here. I reference that button and use that button's border color. The same goes for here, border thickness. I use the button's border thickness. And so it goes, fill color, button, fill color. That means that if I go into the button and then I change that fill color, that will change throughout my app. How great is that? Now, there is a lot of things that you can do in terms of branding a Canvas app. That's so smart, and so many smart people have done so many great things regarding the branding. For instance, the ability to have dynamic width. So you can use the same app in a mobile or a desktop device, horizontally or vertically, or a landscape or portrait mode. And the app would scale as a website would do, responsively. That's not really that hard to do. And it's great when you use apps like this that would be used on multiple devices and multiple screens. That's just one of the tips and tricks that I wanted to show you. So that's something you should consider when you build your own app. Have that branding screen, have that button, and then reuse that throughout your app. Right, so we've come to this last part here where I'll go back into my slides. So the extensibility, I touched on this throughout my presentation. So a Power Apps portals form for registering would be my preferred approach. But of course, SharePoint lists, whatever you use in your daily, when you handle your participants, would be the best solution for you. So think about what you have at your disposal when it comes to infrastructure to begin with, and use that as your storage for the participants. You could use Dataverse for storing. How would you target multiple attendee lists? So if you would have, as I mentioned earlier, multiple events, maybe you have a new event next year, or maybe you have multiple events going on every week. There is ways to deal with that, and it will change based on whatever list you use or whatever storage you use for your participants. You could consider having expiry dates for the QR codes check-in, so that you would only allow the check-ins to occur on a set date frame. That meaning that even though it's just an ID and it would not be valuable to anyone other than the one having the QR code scanner you created, there would be added security if you had an expiry date for that QR code. So if you try to scan it outside of that date frame, it wouldn't work. Try also, in terms of security, have validations on the values that you send through Power Automate. That is important. Just if nothing else, then validate the data coming from the forms into your system, and add handle for error responses. So this is a proof of concept, so I have not added any error handling at all. So if you were to use this in a production environment, that would be essential to having the possibility to maintain this over time. So you need to add some error response handling. So is there anything else? Well, how would this be if there were a lot of rapid check-ins? So as I developed the solution, I looked into multiple ways of handling the result of the scan. So we could potentially update the list item from the Canvas app that as it was checked in. That would mean that the Canvas app would have to go check the SharePoint list, get that result, and then go back. That would be a hard process. That would take long, and it would be strainful on the app and on the system. So it's better to handle all the check-ins either through collections on your app or send the check-in process to a Power Automate flow, as I did, to make sure that you can do rapid check-ins so that the line of attendees is not to the door when they get there. It's a rapid check-in process. Have that in mind. And then think about maybe collecting kind of a log of all the scannings that has been done in your app. That would not be very hard on the app to do. It would not impact performance all that much, and it would be a great tool afterwards in terms of in troubleshooting, etc. So that's something to have in mind. Right, I'm done with my demo. I just have a couple of more things to show you. So I created through 2-3 blog posts that go with this solution, where you can see everything from screenshots on how this works, and also the inner workings, the expressions and everything. They're not complete yet. So if you go into my blog, ulrikke.akerbæk.com, you will see these 2 blog posts and heaps of screenshots, and that's about it right now. I will extend these and explain further tonight, or at least by the end of this week. So that's where you can get your hands on the actual code, and I will do my best to provide you with enough information for you to build this demo on your own. That's what I strive to do. So please have a look at this at the end of the week. Again, I would like to thank the European SharePoint and Office 365 and Azure community. It's been great being part of this week-long event and being the first one out. It's really, really cool. And I know that there's so many cool webinars coming the next couple of days and blog posts. So keep an eye out and join the other webinars. And then where can you find me? I'm hosting a portal lunch for those of you who speak Norwegian. In Norway, we have a Power Apps Portals community. We meet up every quarter. Sorry, excuse me. And the next one is 24th of November, sorry. So please join us then if you're into Power Apps Portals and you speak Norwegian and you want to extend your network of people like us. And then I'm hosting, I'm doing a session at the Power Portals Bootcamp. That's 24th and 25th of September. So that's this weekend actually. And this, I would do the exact same talk that I'm doing now, but I will replace the SharePoint list with the Dataverse list and the Power Apps Portals forum. So if you want to see how that looks and what that does affecting the whole solution, then please join me for that. And then that was the end of my slide. So thank you so much for being part of this webinar. Thank you so much for listening. I will stick around if there's any questions, and then.
Yeah, thanks for a great presentation, Ulrike. Yes, and now we will start the questions and answers part. And should you wish to ask a question, please type it into the questions window now. We have one question in so far, Ulrike, and here it is. If the guard is third-party service, i.e. not from your organization, how do you distribute the Power App scanning app?
Oh, so if the person at the door is not a member of your organization, could they use your Canvas app? If that's, if I'm reading that question correctly. Mm-hmm. So it is actually possible to share Canvas apps to people outside of your organization, as long as they have the appropriate license. So if the doorman is with another company and they have, he has a Power Apps Canvas app license, he would be able, or she would be able to use the app and scan the codes at the door. They would need access to the SharePoint list as well, and a run access to the flow. But that's absolutely possible. And I actually do have a blog post on my blog on how to share a Canvas app to external users. So have a look at that. And if you can't get the solution to work, then reach out and I'll help you out.
Brilliant, thank you. That's the only question we have so far, Ulrike, so that's absolutely brilliant. That's my dog, by the way, in the background, yawning, in case you're wondering. Yeah, he's just woken up perfectly at the end of your webinar. Okay, brilliant. On behalf of the ESPC community, thank you, Ulrike, for taking the time to complete this webinar. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure to be a part of this. And yeah, I guess good luck with the rest of the week.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, just bear with me here for a moment as I get back to my own screen, which is here, I think. Okay, everybody, this is the end of the webinar today. Please find this webinar and more at sharepointeurope.com/resource-center. Thank you for joining us today, and also a big thank you to our SharePoint supporter, our SharePoint Week supporter, which is Nintex. Thank you again to Ulrikke Akerbæk, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. Take care and goodbye.